From the BBC World Service, in association with ABC and Akashvani, this is Stumped.
Hello, I'm Alison Mitchell and welcome to Stumped. I'm joined this week by Clint Wheeldon, who is in Perth for the ABC, and Cherry Sharma for Akashvani this week is in Ajmer. Now, is there any way back for England in the Ashes after the men slumped to an 8-wicket defeat in Brisbane, leaving them trailing 2-0 to Australia in the 5-test series? England's head coach, Brendan McCullum, certainly made headlines by saying his side, quote, over-prepared for the Gabba Test match, despite choosing not to play in a pink ball warm-up match. Now, former England wicketkeeper and 3-time Ashes winner Matt Prior was part of the last England team to win an Ashes Down Under in 2010-11 and joins us now for Stumped. Matt, great to have you on. Now, you were at the Gabba with me witnessing that England defeat. So to start with, what was your take on McCullum saying that England probably over-prepared?
It was a bit of a shock. And also considering the fact that just about 10 metres away from him, he had Ben Stokes talking like he was about, Australia is not a place for weak people and neither is a dressing room that I'm captain of. That sort of messaging was very direct, very strong. And see, I was out there with TNT and Ben came over to our desk and you could tell how much he was hurting and actually just how angry he was. It was palpable. So for the coach to kind of come out with that line felt slightly, it was coming from different places, right? As a coach and captain. And the one thing in 2010-11, and actually one of the reasons why I thought England had a really good chance this series was because our leadership group was so strong and so resolute and together within their thoughts, i.e. Strauss and Flower. They were always, even though they may have come at things from a slightly different place, their messaging to us as a team was very, very succinct and aligned at all times. I've had a 24-hour flight to sort of think about this before sort of reacting and digest it, because it is a real odd one. And Alison, we saw each other just after he'd sort of said that. And my first opinion was, okay, it's a bit of a Mourinho move where he's coming out with something that is going to grab headlines. Everyone's going to talk about it. And we're not going to talk about Pope, Crawley, Duckett and all the players, which actually I thought was a pretty good move. I also think it was him saying, I'm not going to be bullied by the press. I literally don't care what the headlines are. I'm going to run this team as I see fit. There's probably something in what he is saying. In that preparation for a test match. Now, preparation before an Ashes, as you rightly said, is months before, right? But preparation for then each individual test match is the days just prior, the 48 hours, 72 hours, whatever it is, prior to that test. And when you lose, so as a player, sometimes you feel that you need to be in the nets a lot. And you need to be hitting balls and catching balls and bowling balls and everything else. And sometimes you go to training without an objective. And training and preparation is not just about time. It's about intensity and it's about a goal and a focus of what you want to get out of every session you do. And I think sometimes you can just feel the pressure because the press are saying and the fans are saying you should be in the nets, you shouldn't be in a restaurant, you shouldn't eat, you shouldn't smile, you shouldn't do anything other than train. You kind of feel obliged to do that. And I was very fortunate to be in the 2010-11 squad that won. I wasn't as fortunate in 2013-14 when we lost 5-0. And obviously, I very rarely talk about it because I pretend it didn't happen, but we have to. And actually, Stokes and Root were on that tour. And the one mistake we made, we made many, but one of the mistakes we made, and I actually spoke to Stokesy about it, sort of saying, look, pull on that experience, because the one thing we did, we suddenly had curfews in place. We suddenly were talking about drinking cultures. We were suddenly talking about, Jonathan Trott was in the nets facing 100 miles an hour on the bowling machine, trying to simulate Mitchell Johnson. And we were watching
it. It becomes very intense and very strict.
Oh, my God. And you stop enjoying it. You're literally hating being in Australia. The press are all over you, the public are all over you, everyone is all over you, and you're just drilling yourself every single day. And I've spoken to most of my teammates, and you know what? We should have gone and played golf. Or we should have gone to Noosa and sat on the beach. Because actually, getting away and being able to refresh and sort of start again, I believe is the best thing that team could have done. And we didn't do that, and we just went further and further and further into a hole.
Matt, can I ask you talk about the preparation? And I know it starts a long time before, but the success that you had in 2010, 2011, the first of the first-class games you play is a full 20 days before the first test. And you play first-class games on the WACA, on Adelaide Oval, and a first-class game at the MCG against a Victorian side, a Victorian 11. When you see the success that you had from that sort of preparation, do you think in future England, for example, should demand for the WACA ground, if it is going to start in Perth, demand that the WACA ground, the WACA ground, is available for a first-class fixture for England, and again, demand that either an Australian 11 or a WA side face them? Because with respect, anyone who was here and knows what Lilac Hill is like as a deck knew that it was nothing to what they were going to face when they got on the Perth Stadium pitch. And again, nothing like that they were going to face when they got up to the Gabba.
I think nowadays it's a common ploy for the home boards to put teams on pitches that will be unlike what they're facing. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Whether you get the WACA or you get the pitch that you actually want, who knows? It's sort of out of your control, other than you demanding or asking for that to happen. And that's something that starts years before, right? That's not like 2 weeks before you get on an aeroplane. So that conversation should be being had. As much as the surfaces that you're playing on, it's also about finding the time. So the scheduling at the moment is that, these guys don't have 4 weeks before an Ashes tour to go and play the game. However, so what were England doing? They were in New Zealand, right? There was a one-day series in New Zealand. A few of the Ashes boys were out there. Hindsight's an exact science, but I'm amazed they were in New Zealand. If your focus is to win the Ashes in Australia, then you get every one of those players into Australia as early as possible. I would have sent whoever to New Zealand to play in that one-day series, but every Ashes player or anyone who was close to being in the Ashes squad would not have been in New Zealand. They would have been in Australia, in Brisbane, at the AB ground, in the gym, doing run-throughs, doing training. They would have been in Australia for as long as possible to give them the opportunity to acclimatise and get used to it. Now, with regards to the warm-up matches, one thing I would say about that group in 2010 and 11, as much as it was the location and the teams we played against, it was the mentality that we went into those games. So we made a decision, batsmen wouldn't be retired on 50. They would go and score 150. Because we spoke in that group about daddy hundreds. That was Gucci's famous line. It's the big hundreds that win you games. And if you aren't used to scoring big hundreds in warm-up matches, then how can we expect you to walk out against the main Australian team and score big hundreds? So the intensity within those warm-up games, they were not called warm-up games within our dressing room. They were matches that we went out to win. That was a mentality. And it wasn't about everyone gets a bit of a go and have a bit of a hit, and then someone retires, walks off, and the bowler has a bit of a trundle and then walks off. No, win the toss. If the decision was to bat first, you go and get 400. When you come to bowl, you bowl them out. If we only got 2 days to win a game, we do what we can to win that game in 2 days, because winning is a habit. And it's a habit that when you have it, you've got to hold on to it, you've got to nurture it. And that team had won a lot up to that series, and we were never going to risk losing that habit by going half-hearted into a warm-up game. So again, it was the intensity that we had in everything we did. It wasn't just the planning itself, but it was the execution and the intensity under which we executed it. So even coming back to nets, our nets, I remember some net sessions that the batsmen were walking out, like taking a deep breath, going, oh my God, that is the most, every batsman knows netting's awful. Bowlers always feel 5 miles an hour quicker. It's just horrendous. But that's what we did. We put ourselves under it every single moment, every opportunity we could, because we knew what was coming. And we knew what we were going to have to deal with and be prepared for if we stood a chance of winning in Australia.
Matt, you made some very, very important points. Thanks for joining us. Let me take you to the world of fast bowling. It's a tough world, and we all feel very sorry when people get injured. But some bowlers just have this reputation of 2 play, 5 miss because of injury, and Mark Wood's getting there. Once again, not available for the rest of the series. What does that do to England? Because they need weapons, and here's a potential 150-plus weapon that's not available to them. Not that he's done fabulously well so far. What happens to him now?
Look, first and foremost, devastating, and devastating for Woody as well. I spoke to him before the last test in Brisbane. I think he knew that it wasn't good. You know, the amount of fluid he was having syringed daily from his knee, and it starts getting to a point where you're like, actually, this isn't safe, really, to be putting yourself through this. And he had worked so hard to get fit and ready. My heart goes out to him first and foremost. But when it comes to the group, take aside the fact that he bowls 150 plus and is that sort of standout rocket that England will need going into Adelaide. As a team man, he will be a massive loss. For Ben Stokes, looking around that room and saying, right, who is in the battle? Who are my lieutenants I can go to who are going to stare Australia down, 2-0 down in a series, and say, we're not beaten. I'm here, I'm fronting up, I'm in the fight. But also, who's going to be the guy joking around, laughing, taking a bit of pressure off, stopping because you can get too intense, right? This is a game of cricket at the end of the day. But when you're in Australia and you're 2-0 down, it feels like life and death. I mean, it honestly feels like the biggest thing going, and your whole world is just sort of imploding. So who's the guy that's going to come around and go, hey, put a smile on your face, let's have a joke, let's muck about. We are playing cricket for England in a phenomenal country against a great opposition. And by the way, we have opportunity to be heroes here. This can only go better for us. Can't get worse, right? Because ultimately, everyone's expecting them to lose 5-0. But imagine if we turn it around, we're going to be heroes. Who's going to be that guy? Mark Wood, I believe, would have been one of those guys.
We need England to win and keep the Ashes alive, Matt. But let's get to your area of speciality. Here's Jamie Smith. What does he get? A duck and a 4 in Brisbane. Misses a catch that leaves on to Travis Head getting a big score. On one hand, do you have any choices there at all? On the other, Alex Carey standing up to the faster bowlers of Australia and having people suggest that he is perhaps the best keeper in the world. So that seems, well, like a mismatch right there. And do you have an option, Jamie Smith? Are you looking for an option, would you?
It is, and I speak from experience, unfortunately. You make that mistake, you drop the catch. It's amazing how many times you then go out and get naught, and that just keeps putting more pressure. Then your shoulders tighten up, you don't keep as well, you get a bit stiff, you don't move. And also the other thing is you go completely internal because you are ultimately standing out there panicking. You're stood there as a wicketkeeper going, I know this ball is coming to me, and I hope to God I don't drop it because I'm just going to keep getting nailed. And I spent hours stood in the middle with my glasses on, pretending no one could see my eyes, or hopefully no one could see my eyes, because I was just like scared, literally scared, going, do not drop this ball, Matt. And every time it came to me, I'd like hold on to it, go, oh, thank God I got it. And that's the reality, right? And it's not like I always used to say, a batsman can feel terrible, nick off, and you go sit in the dressing room. Happy days. You can close. You cannot be seen for the rest of the day. Even a bowler can disappear off, get your cap, cheers umps, I've had my spell, and suddenly need to go change your shirt for half an hour or something like that. A wicketkeeper, you're out there, whether you like it or not, whether you're catching them, dropping them, you're out there, and your job. And everyone says, "Oh, you got those big gloves on. You shouldn't drop anything." The pressure is huge. He's still a young guy as well, right? And then what happens, as you rightly say, Alex Carey goes and has an absolute stormer. Your opposite man does the complete opposite. He scores runs, catches flies, is now being talked up as the best keeper in the world. Jamie Smith mentally will be in a really, really tough place. The first thing you can do is, again, the leadership group are going to be really important here. They're going to have to look at him in the eyes. This is not a question, is Jamie Smith a good player, right? He's a very, very good player, and I'm sure he's going to be an absolute superstar. Sometimes you can just lose in the fight, and you can kind of not want to be out there. And Jamie Smith, in that role as wicketkeeper, needs to want to be out there and want to be in the middle and want to be in the fight. Because aside from catching everything and averaging 50 with the bat, the keeper's role now is to be or has always been, not now, has always been, you are the heartbeat of that group within the field. You're the drummer of the band. You help the captain, bowlers with angles, with how the bowler's getting on, how they're coming, are they still in rhythm, are they hitting the gloves well, are they not? Are the plans and tactics right for any given batsman? Do they need changing? Now, the reason I mention that is if you're internalizing everything, i.e., oh my God, I'm so scared, I don't want to drop the ball, and you're just focusing on your own game, you can't concentrate on anything external, right? Which is hugely important to the captain and bowlers and the rest of the team. So the best thing Jamie Smith can do is get external again. And what I mean by that is almost, right, do your prep, do your work. That's your time when you internalize and you make sure that your game's in good order, you're catching the ball as you want it, your feet are moving, you're batting, you're hitting them well. Once that prep's done, you can't do any more than that, right? If you make a mistake, it's because you're human. When you get into the game, then it's about everything external. Just focus on, and sometimes you have to force yourself massively, but you just focus on, is Jofra hitting the gloves well? Is he swinging it back? Is it going across? Is the ball swinging? Is it not? Right, my fielders, grab Ben Duckett, grab Pope, grab Zach Crawley. Right, we're going to go pick a fight with Steve Smith. You go, and that's the stuff you have to do.
I'll finish the conversation by asking who should be accountable for the fortunes of this England team in the Ashes. But just before we get there, just carrying on what you're saying about there with Jamie Smith, when we chatted in Brisbane, you were telling me about some of the very little details that you guys did on the field. I mean, preparation aside, leading up to the series, but the little things that you did on the field to ensure that you were prepared for certain scenarios, or that you could protect each other on the field or help each other on the field. Can you share some of those?
And it was interesting watching, being out there in Brisbane and not seeing those things happen. And again, it tells you that they always say that the window to the team's soul is how they are in the field together. And that's not just about the fielding, standard of fielding, dropping catches, et cetera, but you can see, is there an intensity? Is there a togetherness? Because after a day and a half in 35-degree heat, you can't fake that. And you need to dig really deep. And that piece isn't about anyone can bowl badly, anyone can drop a catch, anyone can nick off, right? But you can choose whether you shuttle between the stumps. You can choose whether you run up to a bowler and give him a tap on the backside and say, come on, mate, we're in this together. That's a choice, right? That's a physical decision of, do you want to be hustling around? Do you want to grab your mates and keep that intensity high? That's not a skill thing, that's a mentality. And that group in 2010-11, we knew how important that was going to be to the outcome of the Ashes. And actually, I think one of my proudest moments is that Justin Langer, probably the most intense human being in the cricketing world, if not the world itself, said to us,
he's been a guest on this podcast, by the way. He'll be listening.
No, absolutely, and I mean that with as a huge compliment, because being able to manage that intensity and live at that level is hard. It's really, really hard, and it's what made him such a good player. But for someone like JL, at the end of that series, to go, you guys were on a different, you just beat us in intensity. We couldn't live with you. You were shut down. Even when we thought we had you down, you were shuttling, you were there, and it's not about sledging. It's not about it's about actions within the field. So we had little things like, don't let the bowler have to walk 20 yards to give the umpire his cap. It's hot enough, they're tired enough. That 20 yards might give them a 0.5% that gets the ball in the right area and takes a wicket. Right? Because if you imagine every over they're walking that extra 20 yards to give the umpire his cap, take that away from him. So not only are you saving him the physicality of having to walk that extra 20 yards, but you're also giving him mate, I'm going to give something of myself to you because I'm here for you to give you the best chance of succeeding and performing. Now, that's going to sound daft, I'm sure, but you do that every day over the course of 8 weeks, 9 weeks, whatever it is, an Ashes series, in that heat, in that intensity, it starts to actually make a difference. Now, I watched Jofra Archer, who was bowling mid-spell. I think it was when Stark and Boland were in. Stark hits a good shot down the ground. Archer runs to his left, and he's mid-spell. He's been bowled. He's just come off bowling and over. Dives full strength, left-handed, stops the ball, right? Pulls himself off the ground, looks exhausted, has to pick the ball up, walks to the other side. It's the end of the over. Not one player walked up to him, gave him a tap on the back and said, great effort, mate. Brilliant stop. That run could have saved us X. Is going to get us a wicket. Not one player. And I was like, hang on a minute. That's your fast bowler having put his body on the line to stop it. Come on, Duckett, Pope, Crawley, where are you guys? Going up to him and going, that's how we want to be. That's how we want to be as an England cricket team. And that's how we need to be as an England cricket team if we want to win in Australia. We have things like, obviously, the crowd banter and everything is quite intense over in Australia. And if you've got a bowler who's a bit down on form, putting him out on the boundary to just go and cop it for the next 6 balls while he has to wait and then come back and bowl again is probably not the best thing mentally. So we made a decision that all our fast bowlers were going to stay in the ring. We were going to protect them from having to go and field on the boundary, which meant one guy had to be the sacrificial lamb, and that guy was Jonathan Trott.
Right.
And he then prepared for months on how he was going to deal with the crowd. Because there's two options, right? There's one, you face them, you laugh at them, you get involved, you joke, you banter. The other is you just ignore them. And every individual will have to work out their way of doing it. But Trotty then had to put his hand up and go, okay, I'll be that guy who's going to stand on the boundary edge for 8 weeks and cop it every single day. And what that says to the group and what that says to the team, and we only had the most unbelievable respect for Trotty to go, yeah, okay, I'm going to put myself in that place to save our bowlers, because that helps us potentially win a game, get an extra wicket, whatever it may be. So it's those little touches that people would know nothing about.
They
That
all
allowed
add
that
up
group
over a period.
They all add up, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, yes, you
Yeah.
talk about Cook scoring 750 run and Peterson's double hundreds and Broad and Anderson and Tremlett and Finn and all these guys. Those performances are obvious for everyone to see, right? When they're getting 5 wickets and hundreds. But it's all the little pieces that go into allowing your teammates to go and deliver that performance. That was what we focused on.
Matt, it's been absolutely fascinating listening to you. Thank you so much for being with us on Stumped. And I know you'll be working on the rest of the Ashes as well, so maybe I'll see you back in Australia at some point. But otherwise, certainly, enjoy the rest of the series from England.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. The sun's shining in England today, but I don't think it's going to last. So I'm more than welcome to get back on an aeroplane.
Perfect. It's been great fun having you on. Matt Prior, former England wicketkeeper and, of course, 3-time Ashes winner. Well, that's all we've got time for on this week's Stumped. So, yes, a massive thanks to Matt Prior and also to Charis Sharma and to Clint Wilden and to all of you for watching. We'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.